The world has experienced multiple high-profile cybersecurity breaches across sectors, exposing the personal information of millions. This year, multiple companies have fallen prey of being victims of data breaches. Cybercrime today generates millions, which begs the question, what are the steps companies should take to respond to and recover from a data breach? And how do you defend yourself from these threats going forward? To educate us more on the topic, we are joined via Zoom by Nithen Naidoo, the CEO of Snode Technologies. Mr. Naidoo, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Mpiwe. How are you?
I'm very well. Great to have you on the show, Mr. Naidoo. What are the current stats in terms of companies affected by cybercrime?
So, it's difficult to give total stats. But just to give you an idea, is in 2021, we would have expected to lose about $6 trillion globally to cybercrime, which is a large amount of money.
Now, this year saw a rise in the number of companies that have been affected by cybercrime. Who are really these perpetrators?
So, about 10, 15 years ago, you'd be looking at like kids in their bedroom, trying to break into networks. Today, it's organized crime. Mm-hmm. It's nation-state attackers. And attackers are typically after either intellectual capital or they're trying to monetize their access through extortion like ransomware.
And how do companies protect themselves from this?
So I think the most important thing is to have complete visibility as to what's going on. It's not entirely possible to prevent 100% of all attacks. So it's really important how you can react and how you respond in the event that you are attacked. I mean, if national intelligence agencies last week, a high-profile cybersecurity firm actually had experienced a breach. I think how you detect and how you respond, and especially how you communicate, is really important. Having complete visibility of all your digital assets in real time and being able to identify attacks, contain them, and accurately, communicate to all stakeholders is vital.
And I suppose that for most companies to protect themselves, they need to know the modus operandi of these perpetrators. I mean, how do they go about carrying out an attack?
So threat intelligence is really important. What we do is we provide clients with what we call an attack kill chain, which is exactly what you just mentioned. It's the modus operandi. It's the tools, the tradecraft, the tactics being used by the attackers, targeting their verticals. And then what we do is we help them simulate those attacks to understand what is my capability in terms of response. It also helps the teams, the people you have working on the ground, rehearse what do I do in the event of this kind of attack. And we use a very accurate, recent, timely threat intelligence, which we then deliver to clients, and then we simulate these environments just to make sure that you have all the right detective and preventative controls in place.
So is there some sort of recourse for companies that have been attacked? I mean, what is it that they can be helped or assisted with?
Of course, not every company has complete visibility of all their digital assets. The digital landscape is evolving so quickly. We've got cloud, we've got virtualization, you've got bring your own device, you've got IoT sensors, people's watches and their phones are connecting to your network, to the corporate network, and they all become your assets. So trying to secure this like heterogeneous architecture is a significant challenge. What we help companies do is we give them visibility across all assets, managed and unmanaged, really fast. So in the event of an attack, you call a team in, a specialized defense team like ours, and we get you visibility really, really quickly. And then what we do is we identify the attack, we understand how your data is potentially being exfiltrated, or how is the business being exposed to risk, either financial loss or the tainting of the corporate image. And we contain that, we shut it down. And then we help you communicate to all your stakeholders, your board members, etc., very accurately and transparently what has happened, what has transpired. And then we help you manage the communication to the public, and to your clients, etc., in an honest and transparent way, which in many cases actually can help you strengthen those relationships rather than break them down through a lack of transparency.
So would you advise companies to, to play it safe and be less visible on some of these assets?
We typically call that security through obscurity. And if you're going to hide and not, if you're going to hide your, the possibilities that the fourth industrial revolution and digital open up to you, we're just going to bury our heads in the sand, as South Africans. And that's not really the correct approach. But there is a way to manage the risk on how you present your digital and online footprint. There is a way. What I would encourage, the message I would send out there is don't rush.
Yeah.
There's this facade of effortless freedom of when you want to put your business on the internet. Don't rush through it. Do it in a controlled, managed way, where you manage the risks, especially the risks related to cyber. And that's for the adoption of any kind of technology.
So do the cyber criminals perhaps work in a network? What I mean by this is that, is there a network at which they carry out the attack? Or is an attack, confined to a specific device and not necessarily, may not be attacking the other devices connected to the same system?
So they do work in a network. So first I'll talk about the social network. So attackers tend to communicate. So what happens is, what we find a lot is attackers, even cross-border, even some with sometimes different political ideologies, are sharing access to compromised networks. And we found that in past investigations, where we'd be getting attackers from multiple geolocations that are targeting the same victim. Because once that access is gained and their initial objective is reached, they tend to monetize their access through either ransomware or by selling your data and selling access to your environment. And that normally happens, that transaction happens on the dark web, or sometimes even the clear web, like on hacking forums. And that kind of access is then granted to other criminal enterprise for them to see how they can monetize access to your environment. So you typically don't have just one wave of attack. You can have multiple waves of attacks from different types of attack networks. Typically, what they look for is an initial attack vector, which is a weakness. They will attack you when you are most vulnerable. Defense is a difficult job. The attacker only needs to get lucky once. Defenders need to get lucky all the time. So there's nothing to be ashamed of if you do have a vulnerability and it is exploited and that initial access is gained. Once that initial access is gained, they then use an array of vectors to do what we perform is move laterally. And this lateral movement is how they move across your device landscape. So no, they're not just attacking. It's very rare that they're only attacking one system. They're typically attacking an entire network. And what they're looking to do is look for vectors to either compromise intellectual property or monetize their access through extortion.
Do you think that enough is being done to educate people about cybercrime and how people and companies can protect themselves?
I don't think traditionally enough was done, but I don't think that's an issue with I think if there's anyone to blame, it's people like like ourselves in the cybersecurity industry. I think for a long time we didn't have the necessary innovation within the technologies and the solutions that we provided to corporate business. And I think there was a period of time where attackers just moved faster in terms of innovation than we did. And we look to rectify that at Snode. There's other companies, of course. There's great South African cybersecurity firms. And we all look to innovation. The way, signature-based technology is something that was developed in the 90s. The same approach to cybersecurity, contained within your antivirus or your traditional firewalls and intrusion detection systems, they're not enough anymore. We need to leverage big data. We need to leverage artificial intelligence. We need to leverage machine learning. At Snode, we use mathematics. And we need to leverage this kind of new innovation to be able to defend ourselves from these advanced and evasive attackers. Again, I reiterate, they're not kids in their bedroom anymore. They're organized crime. They're nation sponsored or state-sponsored attackers. So they're extremely advanced and well organized.
Okay, Nithen, for so many of you, so many of the viewers who are listening to you and would need tips to protect themselves and their companies, how do they reach you and how do they reach your company?
Well, you can just email me directly, nithen@snode.com. It's NITHEN @snode.com. And you can go to our website, www.snode.com. And yeah, we're happy to help anybody who requires assistance. And, we work with all the necessary forensic teams, special investigations units, departments within government, etc. And, today, Snode's over six of the 7 continents with a client footprint of over 85 clients globally. So we do this around the world.
All right. Nithen, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for those tips. They've been very valuable. All right, that was Nithen Naidoo talking to us about how companies can protect themselves from cybercrime. It is 4 minutes before 9 o'clock. Before we wrap the show, let's take a look at the last batch of social media responses that have been coming through. Tapero says, good morning, Sims and team. It's my first time hearing about this town. Well,